Flip a switch and darkness vanishes. It's an act so commonplace, so integrated into our daily lives that we barely give it a second thought. But consider for a moment, how did humanity gain this instant, reliable mastery over the night? How did a simple glowing filament encased in glass become the catalyst for a worldwide transformation? This isn't merely the story of inventing a better lamp. It's a saga of relentless experimentation, fierce inventive rivalries, brilliant engineering, and the creation of entirely new industries that literally electrified the planet. This is the story of how the light bulb sparked a global revolution. Before the practical incandescent light bulb, the rhythm of life was largely dictated by the sun. Homes relied on candles, oil lamps, or hazardous gaslight. Streets were dimly lit, limiting activity and safety after dusk. Factories often operated only during daylight hours. The arrival of safe, affordable, and long-lasting electric light didn't just push back the darkness. It fundamentally altered how and when people worked, socialized, learned, and lived. It reshaped our cities, fueled industrial growth, and became a cornerstone of modernity. Understanding its development is key to understanding the birth of our electrified world. Join us as we embark on this illuminating journey. We'll explore the decades of scientific discovery and the numerous early, often fleeting, attempts to create electric light. We will delve into the intense race between inventors like Thomas Edison, Joseph Swan, Hiram Maxim, and others to find the perfect, durable filament. We'll uncover the monumental challenge of not just perfecting the bulb itself, but building the vast infrastructure of generators, power stations, and electrical grids required to bring light into homes and businesses. And we will examine the profound societal, economic, and cultural shifts ignited by this seemingly simple invention. Prepare to see the humble light bulb in a completely new light. To truly grasp the revolution sparked by the light bulb, we must first immerse ourselves in the world it replaced, a world bound by the rhythms of the sun and the limitations of flame. For millennia, humanity battled darkness with fire. The flickering torch, the smoky oil lamp, the humble candle. These provided light, certainly, but it was often dim, inefficient, hazardous, and demanded constant attention, filling homes and workplaces with soot and consuming precious oxygen. The 19th century brought progress, most notably with the advent of gaslighting, particularly in burgeoning cities. Networks of pipes delivered flammable gas, illuminating streets and affluent interiors with a brightness previously unknown. Yet gaslight was far from a perfect solution. It carried the inherent dangers of leaks, explosions, and fire. It produced significant heat, vitiated the air, required extensive and costly infrastructure, and offered little in the way of convenient individual control. While brighter than candles, it was often harsh and inflexible. The deep-seated human, yearning for a source of illumination that was truly safe, clean, steady, easily divisible and controllable, a light that could truly conquer the night on demand, remained largely unfulfilled. Meanwhile, the scientific foundations for an entirely new approach were being meticulously laid. The burgeoning understanding of electricity in the late 18th and 19th centuries was key. Alessandro Volta's invention of the voltaic pile around 1800 provided the first source of continuous electric current. Scientists like Humphrey Davy explored electricity's effects, demonstrating phenomena like the electric arc, an intensely bright light created by current jumping between two electrodes. Further research unraveled the relationship between electrical current, resistance within a material, and the generation of heat, the principle of Joule heating. It became understood that if a material could be heated sufficiently by electricity without destroying itself, it would glow brightly. The phenomenon of incandescence. Early attempts to harness electricity for practical lighting often focused on Davy's discovery, leading to the development of arc lamps. By the mid-19th century, powerful arc lights were used for specialized applications like lighthouses and illuminating large public spaces or factories. However, they were intensely bright, often flickered unpleasantly, produced fumes, required complex mechanisms to maintain the correct gap between the electrodes, and were entirely unsuitable for domestic or intimate settings. The challenge wasn't just creating electric light, but creating a practical, stable, subdivided and long-lasting form of it. The concept of incandescent lighting, making a solid filament glow hot by passing current through it, held more promise for widespread use. This idea wasn't born in a single eureka moment. Numerous inventors across Europe and North America experimented with it decades before success was finally achieved. As early as the 1840s, British scientist Warren de la Rue demonstrated incandescence by passing current through a platinum coil inside an evacuated glass tube. In 1841, Frederick de Molins received a British patent for a lamp using platinum, wires and powdered carbon. These early efforts, and many others like them, proved the principle but stumbled over immense practical hurdles. Two fundamental challenges consistently thwarted these pioneers. The first was identifying a suitable filament material. The ideal filament needed an extremely high melting point to withstand the intense heat required for bright incandescence. It also needed the right electrical resistance. Furthermore, and crucially, it had to be durable enough to last for a commercially viable length of time without rapidly degrading or breaking. Early experimenters tried costly platinum, various forms of carbon, which tended to burn quickly in air, and other substances, but finding the right balance of properties proved exceptionally difficult. The second interconnected challenge was achieving and maintaining a near-perfect vacuum inside the glass bulb enclosing the filament. Any significant amount of oxygen would cause the intensely hot filament, especially if made of carbon, to oxidize and burn out almost instantly. The vacuum pump technology of the mid-19th century was still relatively crude, making it incredibly hard to evacuate bulbs sufficiently and maintain that vacuum over time. Leaks were common, and filament life remained frustratingly short. Inventors like Joseph Swan in England persevered, conducting experiments with carbonized paper filaments as early as the 1850s and 60s. He achieved incandescence, but was hampered by the poor vacuums achievable at the time. In Russia, Alexander Lodygin developed lamps using carbon rods in evacuated bulbs in the early 1870s, achieving some limited success in street lighting, but still battling filament longevity. So, by the mid-1870s, the essential elements for incandescent lighting were understood. The need for electrical current, the principle of incandescence, the requirement for a high-resistance, high-melting point filament, and the absolute necessity of a high vacuum. The world was still largely lit by flame. Experimental electric bulbs flickered briefly in laboratories before expiring. The profound societal need for better light was clear. The underlying science was largely in place, but the crucial engineering breakthroughs required to create a practical, affordable, long-lasting incandescent light bulb remained just out of reach. The stage was set for an intense period of focused invention, fierce competition, and system-level thinking that would finally illuminate the world. The stage was meticulously set. Decades of scientific inquiry had illuminated the principles of electricity and incandescence. The societal yearning for a safe, clean, and convenient alternative to gaslight and oil lamps was palpable. Numerous inventors had valiantly attempted to create a practical electric light, only to be thwarted by the twin demons of fragile filaments and imperfect vacuums. The world held its breath, awaiting the crucial engineering breakthroughs that would finally, reliably conquer the night. That spark, when it came in the late 1870s, ignited almost simultaneously on both sides of the Atlantic, fueled by relentless perseverance and systematic innovation. In Newcastle, England, the physicist and chemist Joseph Swan was no newcomer to the challenge. He had been fascinated by incandescent lighting since the 1850s, conducting early experiments with carbonized paper filaments. While those initial attempts failed due to the inadequate vacuum technology of the time, Swan never abandoned the idea. By the late 1870s, significant advancements in vacuum pumps, particularly the mercury-based Sprengel pump, allowed for much higher vacuums to be achieved within glass bulbs. Armed with this improved technology, Swan returned to his carbon filament experiments with renewed vigor. By late 1878 and throughout 1879, he was successfully demonstrating incandescent lamps using specially treated durable carbon filaments, initially carbonized cardboard or thread, in high vacuum. These bulbs produced a steady, usable light and, crucially, lasted for hours rather than minutes. Swan illuminated his own home, lecture halls, and even public buildings in Newcastle, providing compelling proof that practical incandescent lighting was finally within reach. His success was born from decades of scientific dedication and leveraging advancements in supporting technologies. Meanwhile, in the United States, an inventor with a dramatically different approach and legendary determination was tackling the same problem with an almost industrial fervor. Thomas Alva Edison, already a celebrated figure for his work on the telegraph, stock ticker, and the astonishing phonograph, established his famous research and development laboratory at Menlo Park, New Jersey, an invention factory. Edison recognized that inventing a commercially successful light bulb was only part of the challenge. His grand vision was to create an entire system of electric illumination, encompassing efficient generators, dynamos, underground wiring, fuses, switches, and meters that could directly compete with and ultimately replace the established gaslighting networks. At the heart of this system, however, lay the bulb itself. Edison and his large team of researchers, often called muckers, embarked on an exhaustive, highly publicized trial-and-error quest for the perfect filament. Edison understood that for his parallel wiring system to work efficiently, the filament needed high electrical resistance, unlike the low-resistance materials favored by some earlier experimenters. This high resistance would limit the current drawn by each bulb, making centralized power generation and distribution feasible. The Menlo Park lab systematically tested thousands of potential materials, from exotic metals to common plant fibers, carbonizing them and evaluating their performance inside evacuated bulbs. The process was laborious, demanding meticulous record-keeping and countless failed experiments, perfectly embodying Edison's famous adage about genius being 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. They also pushed the boundaries of vacuum technology, employing advanced Sprengel pumps and refining glass-blowing techniques to create bulbs capable of maintaining the necessary high vacuum for extended periods. The synergy between finding the right filament material and achieving a near-perfect vacuum was absolutely critical. Then, in October 1879, came the legendary breakthrough. After testing countless materials, Edison's team found remarkable success. With a filament made from simple, carbonized cotton sewing thread, mounted in a high-vacuum bulb, this filament glowed brightly and, crucially, lasted for over 13 continuous hours in its initial test. Subsequent refinements quickly extended this lifespan dramatically into the hundreds and eventually over 1,000 hours. While perhaps not the absolute first demonstration of incandescent light, Edison's carbonized thread lamp represented the successful culmination of the search for a practical, durable, and commercially viable incandescent bulb suitable for widespread domestic and commercial use as part of a complete electrical system. Edison, a master showman, staged dazzling public demonstrations of his complete lighting system at Menlo Park, starting in December 1879, attracting worldwide attention and investment. His team continued to innovate, soon identifying carbonized bamboo as an even more durable and efficient filament material, which became the standard for Edison's early commercial lamps. The core innovation achieved by both Swan and Edison, therefore, wasn't necessarily a single radical scientific insight, but rather the masterful engineering convergence required to overcome the long-standing obstacles. They successfully leveraged improved vacuum technologies, systematically identified and optimized practical high-resistance carbon-based filament materials, and developed the manufacturing processes needed to produce these delicate components reliably and affordably. Their determination, systematic approach, especially Edison's, and the improved technological context of the late 1870s finally unlocked the secret to practical electric incandescence. Naturally, this period of intense parallel invention led to patent disputes, particularly between Edison and Swan. In Britain, they eventually resolved their differences by forming a joint company, Edison, to commercialize the technology. Regardless of the legal battles, the impact was immediate and profound. Reliable, long-lasting electric light bulbs were no longer a laboratory curiosity, but a tangible reality. The public was captivated. Early installations began to illuminate homes, businesses, ships, and city streets, proving the viability of the technology. The spark had been struck, the darkness was beginning to recede, and the immense task of building the electrical infrastructure to power this revolution was now underway. The invention of a practical, long-lasting incandescent light bulb by pioneers like Swan and Edison in the late 1870s was a monumental spark, a triumph of persistence and engineering. But a single bulb, however brilliant, cannot illuminate a city, let alone the world. Turning that isolated spark into a global fire required conquering entirely new, complex frontiers, generating electrical power reliably and economically on a massive scale, distributing that power safely and efficiently across vast distances, and continuously refining the light source itself for greater longevity, brightness, and affordability. The ascent of electric light, from laboratory marvel to ubiquitous utility, was a saga of intense competition, brilliant systems thinking, crucial scientific advancements, and the construction of entirely new technological infrastructures. Thomas Edison, perhaps more than any other single figure of the era, grasped that the light bulb was merely the end point of a complex chain. His genius lay not just in perfecting the lamp, but in envisioning and meticulously engineering a complete system for electrical illumination designed to directly supplant the dominant gaslighting networks. The crowning achievement of this vision was the opening of the Pearl Street Station in Lower Manhattan, New York City on September 4th, 1882. This wasn't just a power plant. It was the world's first central electric generating station conceived specifically to power incandescent lighting for paying customers in the surrounding district. Inside, massive steam engines drove Edison's custom-designed jumbo dynamos, generating direct current, DC electricity. This power flowed through a pioneering network of thick copper conductors laid underground, a safer alternative to the overhead wires common then, reaching approximately 85 customers and illuminating around 400 lamps initially. Edison's system was comprehensive, including not only the dynamos and wiring, but also crucial safety features like fuses, user-friendly switches and sockets, including his patented screw base, still standard today, and even meters to accurately measure electricity consumption for billing. Early high-profile installations, such as lighting the steamship SS Columbia in 1880 or illuminating the homes and offices of influential figures like J.P. Morgan, served as powerful demonstrations, showcasing the clean, steady, and controllable nature of electric light compared to its flickering, hazardous gas counterpart. Simultaneously, across the Atlantic, Joseph Swan was actively commercializing his own incandescent lamp designs. He established the Swan Electric Light Company in Britain and carried out significant installations, including lighting his own home, Wainforth, and notably the Savoy Theatre in London in 1881, which became the first public building in the world to be lit entirely by electricity, dazzling audiences, and generating immense publicity. As in the US, the commercial potential spurred intense activity, but also inevitable patent disputes between the leading inventors. Eventually, to consolidate their positions in the crucial British market, Edison's and Swan's companies merged to form the Edison and Swan United Electric Light Company, commonly known as Ediswan, which became a dominant force. However, a fundamental technological battle soon erupted that would shape the future of electrical distribution worldwide: the War of the Currents. Edison was a staunch advocate for direct current, DC. His Pearl Street system and early installations all used DC, which flowed continuously in one direction. While effective and relatively simple for densely populated areas located close to the generating station, DC suffered from significant voltage drop and power loss over distance, making it impractical to transmit electricity economically beyond a radius of about a mile. George Westinghouse, a brilliant inventor and savvy industrialist who had already revolutionized railway safety with his air brake system, recognized the limitations of DC and championed alternating current, AC. AC periodically reverses its direction of flow, but its crucial advantage lies in the ease with which its voltage can be changed using transformers. High-voltage AC could be transmitted efficiently over very long distances with minimal power loss, then stepped down via transformers near the point of use to safe, usable voltages for lighting and, importantly, for motors. Westinghouse acquired key AC patents, most notably from the visionary Serbian-American inventor Nikola Tesla, whose designs for AC induction motors and polyphase systems were essential for a practical AC power grid. The rivalry between Edison's DC camp and Westinghouse's AC proponents became intensely personal and public. Edison, defending his established DC infrastructure and investments, engaged in aggressive tactics, including public demonstrations using high-voltage AC to electrocute animals, a process termed Westinghousing, in an attempt to portray AC as dangerously unsafe. Westinghouse and Tesla countered by highlighting AC's superior efficiency, range, and suitability for powering motors, which were becoming increasingly important for industry. The turning point arguably came when Westinghouse dramatically underbid Edison's General Electric to win the prestigious contract to illuminate the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago using AC power. This massive, successful demonstration showcased the capabilities and safety of AC to millions, significantly boosting its public acceptance. Ultimately, the technical and economic advantages of AC for large-scale power generation and distribution proved overwhelming, and it became the dominant standard across the globe, although isolated DC networks persisted in some older city districts. For many decades, this fierce battle over the very nature of the electrical grid was as vital to the light bulb's ultimate triumph as the perfection of the filament itself. While the war of the currents determined how power would reach the bulb, intense research continued within the bulb itself, focused on finding filaments superior to the early carbonized threads and bamboo. While these initial carbon filaments were revolutionary in achieving practical lifespans, hundreds, then over 1,000 hours, they had limitations. They were inherently fragile, susceptible to breakage from vibration, and suffered from bulb blackening. Carbon atoms evaporating from the hot filament and depositing on the cooler glass, gradually reducing light output. The quest for a brighter, longer-lasting, more durable filament became a central focus for the burgeoning research laboratories of major electrical companies like General Electric, formed in 1892 by the merger of Edison, General Electric, and Thomson-Houston. Westinghouse and their European counterparts like Siemens and Philips, various avenues were explored. Willis R. Whitney at GE developed a process around 1903 for metallizing carbon filaments by firing them at extremely high temperatures in an electric furnace. This process altered the carbon structure, making it more resilient and efficient, effectively bridging the gap between carbon and true metal filaments. Meanwhile, European inventors experimented with refractory metals known for their high melting points. Karl Auer von Welsbach, already famous for his invention of the highly efficient gas mantle, developed lamps using filaments made of the rare and expensive metal osmium around the turn of the century. Werner von Bolton followed with filaments made from tantalum. These early metal filament lamps offered significantly higher brightness and efficiency, more light per watt compared to carbon, but they were plagued by the extreme brittleness of the metals and their high cost, limiting their widespread adoption. The ultimate prize in the filament race proved to be tungsten. Possessing the highest melting point of all metals, over 3,400 degrees Celsius, tungsten offered the theoretical potential for incredibly bright, efficient, and long-lasting filaments that could operate at much higher temperatures than carbon or other metals. The immense challenge, however, lay in tungsten's notorious brittleness in its natural state. Drawing this hard metal into the fine, uniform wire needed for a lamp filament seemed impossible using existing metallurgical techniques. Early attempts, including patents by inventors like Alexander Lodygin, involved using sintered tungsten powder or paste, but these filaments remained fragile. The critical breakthrough came from the dedicated research efforts at General Electric's laboratory in Schenectady, New York, spearheaded by physicist William D. Coolidge. Through years of systematic experimentation, Coolidge and his team developed a complex process involving purifying tungsten oxide powder, pressing it into bars, sintering these bars at high temperatures, and then painstakingly working the sintered tungsten through a series of heated dyes, swagging and drawing. This process, perfected around 1908-1910, yielded ductile tungsten metal that could be drawn into incredibly fine, yet remarkably strong and flexible, wires suitable for lamp filaments. This invention was a game changer. Ductile tungsten filaments were far superior to anything that came before. They were durable, could withstand higher operating temperatures leading to brighter and whiter light, were significantly more energy efficient, and offered much longer lifespans. Tungsten rapidly became the universal standard for incandescent lamp filaments, a position it held for nearly a century. Even the superior tungsten filament wasn't perfect. At the very high temperatures required for efficient light production, tungsten atoms would still slowly evaporate from the filament's surface, even within the high vacuum of the bulb. This evaporation weakened the filament over time, eventually causing it to break, and also contributed to bulb blackening. The next major advance in incandescent lamp efficiency came from tackling this evaporation problem, ironically, by deliberately introducing gas back into the bulb. Irving Langmuir, another brilliant scientist at General Electric's research lab, conducted fundamental studies on the physics of hot filaments in vacuums and various gas atmospheres. He discovered around 1913 that filling the bulb with a small amount of an inert gas, typically nitrogen or argon, significantly suppressed The rate of tungsten evaporation. The gas molecules essentially bounced evaporating tungsten atoms back towards the filament. This allowed the filament to be operated safely at even higher temperatures, resulting in a brighter, whiter light and a substantial increase in energy. Efficiency, measured in lumens per watt. However, the presence of the gas also carried heat away from the filament via convection, which initially counteracted some of the efficiency gains. Langmuir ingeniously solved this secondary problem by changing the filament's shape. Instead of a straight wire, he wound the fine tungsten filament into a tight coil. This reduced the effective surface area exposed to the gas, minimizing convective heat loss, while maintaining the high light output from the concentrated hot wire. Later refinements led to the coiled coil filament, coiling the already coiled wire, further improving efficiency. The combination of ductile tungsten filaments, inert gas filling, and coiled coil construction defined the modern incandescent light bulb, offering performance and longevity vastly superior to the pioneering lamps of Edison and Swan. Alongside these crucial technical innovations within the bulb, the broader ecosystem continued to develop. Standardization of voltages, socket types like the Edison screw base, and bulb shapes facilitated mass production and interchangeability. Major corporations like General Electric, Westinghouse, Philips, Osram, and others invested heavily in automated manufacturing processes, dramatically reducing the cost of both bulbs and the electricity needed to power them throughout the early 20th century. Simultaneously, the expansion of reliable AC power grids, spurred by the outcome of the War of the Currents, brought electricity within reach of millions more homes, businesses, and factories. By the 1910s and 1920s, the ascent was undeniable. Electric light was rapidly displacing gaslight as the preferred method of illumination in urban and increasingly rural areas across the industrialized world. This phase, characterized by intense research, yielding critical improvements in filament technology and bulb design, coupled with the build-out of massive electrical generation and distribution systems and the economies of scale achieved through mass production, transformed the incandescent light bulb from an expensive novelty into an affordable, reliable, everyday necessity. Longer, safer working hours in factories boosted industrial output. Brighter, safer streets transformed urban nightlife. Homes were fundamentally changed, with evenings opened up for reading, study, socializing, and entertainment in ways previously unimaginable. The improved, affordable incandescent light bulb, powered by ever-expanding electrical grids, wasn't just providing light. It was actively reshaping the temporal, spatial, and economic patterns of modern industrial society, paving the way for an even broader electrical revolution encompassing countless other appliances and technologies. The invention and subsequent refinement of a practical, long-lasting incandescent light bulb by Edison, Swan, and others was the crucial technological spark. The concurrent development and eventual triumph of alternating current systems provided the means to distribute electrical power efficiently. Together, these advancements set the stage for a true global revolution. The widespread adoption of electric light, moving it from an expensive curiosity to an indispensable feature of modern life, fundamentally reshaping society in the process. This transition, occurring primarily in the decades spanning the late 19th and early 20th centuries, marked the tipping point where electric illumination decisively overtook its predecessors. What fueled this mass adoption? Transforming the light. But from a novelty into a necessity, it was a powerful convergence of improving technology, falling costs, and growing public demand. Firstly, the light bulb itself became significantly better and cheaper. The shift from fragile, short-lived carbon filaments to durable, efficient Tungsten filaments, thanks to the work of Coolidge and others at GE, meant bulbs lasted much longer, often thousands of hours, and produced significantly more light for the same amount of energy. Secondly, mass production techniques implemented by rapidly growing electrical companies like General Electric, Westinghouse in the US, and Siemens, Philips, and Osram in Europe dramatically reduced the manufacturing cost per bulb. What began as a relatively expensive, handcrafted item became an affordable, standardized commodity. Thirdly, and perhaps most importantly, the cost of electricity itself decreased as the infrastructure matured. The expansion of efficient AC power, generation and distribution networks, driven by the outcome of the War of the Currents, allowed utilities to produce and deliver electricity more economically. Increased scale, technological improvements in generators and transformers, and competition among utility providers gradually made electrical power affordable for not just industry and the wealthy, but also for middle-class households and small businesses. Public confidence grew as the electrical supply became more reliable. Furthermore, aggressive marketing campaigns by electrical utilities and manufacturers relentlessly promoted the benefits of electric light, its safety compared to gas leaks and fires, cleanliness, no soot or fumes, convenience, instant light at the flick of a switch, and the bright, steady quality of its illumination. The cumulative effect was an explosion in the use of electric lighting, radiating outwards from city centers. While the earliest adopters were wealthy individuals, prestigious institutions, and businesses seeking a modern edge, the early 20th century saw electric light systematically replace gaslight and oil lamps in ordinary homes, apartment buildings, shops, offices, schools, hospitals, and factories across the industrialized world. Production numbers tell the story. Annual light bulb manufacturing soared from mere thousands in the early days to hundreds of millions by the 1920s. The once dominant gaslighting industry faced a rapid and irreversible decline, relegated to niche uses. This electrification of light wasn't merely a technological substitution. It triggered profound societal shifts. Industrial production was revolutionized. Factories, previously often limited by daylight hours or reliant on dangerous gas lighting, could now operate safely and efficiently around the clock with multiple shifts, significantly boosting output and contributing to 20th century economic expansion. Retail environments were transformed. Brightly lit stores and captivating illuminated window displays extended shopping hours into the evening, attracting customers and fostering new consumer habits. Urban life changed dramatically. Well-lit streets enhanced public safety, deterred crime, and encouraged nighttime travel and socializing, contributing to the vibrant nightlife of modern cities. Theaters, restaurants, amusement parks, and other entertainment venues flourished, able to operate brightly and attract crowds after dark. Inside the home, the impact was equally transformative. Reliable, clean electric light liberated evenings for activities beyond basic necessity. Reading, studying, homework, hobbies, and family gatherings could comfortably take place after sunset without the eye strain, fumes, or fire hazards associated with candles or lamps. This arguably contributed to rising literacy rates and changes in family dynamics. Moreover, the very act of wiring homes for electric light created the essential infrastructure for the next wave of technological revolution. The adoption of countless electrical appliances like irons, vacuum cleaners, washing machines, radios, and refrigerators, all of which relied on the power grid initially built primarily to serve the humble light bulb. The key players driving this revolution were the major integrated electrical companies: General Electric, Westinghouse, Siemens, Philips, AEG, who dominated not just bulb manufacturing, but also the production of generators, transformers, wiring, and other essential components of the electrical system. The key product enabling it all was the increasingly standardized, affordable, and efficient tungsten filament incandescent bulb. By the interwar period, in most developed nations, electric light had transitioned from a luxury to an expected standard of modern living. The revolution sparked by that simple glowing wire in a vacuum had fundamentally altered humanity's relationship with darkness, extended the productive day, and laid the very foundation for the electrically powered 20th century. The triumph of the tungsten filament incandescent bulb, powered by expanding electrical grids, defined illumination for the vast majority of the 20th century. It became so commonplace, so integrated into the fabric of modern life, that it seemed like a technology that had reached its final form. Yet the story of lighting, like all technology, continued to evolve, driven by the persistent pursuit of greater energy efficiency, longer lifespans, environmental concerns, and entirely new capabilities unimaginable in Edison's time. The contemporary era has witnessed another profound revolution in how we produce and control light. The first significant challenge to the incandescent bulb's long reign emerged with the widespread adoption of compact fluorescent lamps, CFLs. Particularly from the 1990s into the early 2000s. These lamps cleverly adapted the established technology of linear fluorescent tubes, using an electric current to excite mercury vapor, generating UV light that then stimulates a phosphor coating to produce visible light into a compact spiral shape designed to fit standard incandescent sockets. CFLs offered a compelling advantage. They typically used only about a quarter of the energy consumed by an equivalent incandescent bulb and lasted significantly longer, often 6 to 15 times as long. Spurred by rising energy costs and growing environmental awareness, governments and utilities promoted CFLs, leading to their widespread use in homes and businesses. However, they weren't without drawbacks. Consumers sometimes noted their slower startup time, perceived differences in light color quality, and critically, the presence of a small amount of mercury, which required careful disposal procedures. But the true lighting revolution of the 21st century belongs to the light-emitting diode, or LED. Unlike incandescent bulbs relying on heat or CFLs relying on gas discharge, LEDs are fundamentally different. They are semiconductor devices that emit light directly when an electric current passes through them, a process called electroluminescence. While the first practical LEDs emitting low-intensity red light were developed back in the 1960s, used primarily as indicator lights in electronics, the breakthrough required for general illumination was the development of efficient blue LEDs. In the early 1990s, this crucial achievement, recognized with the 2014 Nobel Prize in Physics for Isamu Akasaki, Hiroshi Amano, and Shuji Nakamura, allowed manufacturers to create white light LEDs, typically either by combining red, green, and blue LEDs, or more commonly, by using a blue LED to excite a yellow phosphor coating. The advantages of modern LED lighting technology are overwhelming. Their energy efficiency surpasses even CFLs, often using 80–90% less energy than equivalent incandescent bulbs. Their potential lifespans are extraordinary, frequently rated for 25,000, 50,000, or even more hours of operation, drastically reducing maintenance and replacement costs. Being solid-state devices, they are highly durable and resistant to shock and vibration. Furthermore, LEDs offer unprecedented control. They provide instant light with no warm-up time. They can be easily dimmed over a wide range, and their color, temperature, from warm to cool white, and even specific colors can be precisely controlled electronically. This technological superiority has led to a rapid and dramatic shift in the global lighting market over the last decade or two. LEDs have moved from niche applications to become the dominant technology across the board, replacing incandescent and fluorescent lamps in homes, offices, factories, street lights, automotive lighting, traffic signals, and forming the basis for the displays on our televisions, computers, and smartphones. We also see the emergence of related technologies like OLEDs, organic LEDs, which use thin layers of organic compounds and can be made flexible or transparent, finding use primarily in high-end displays today, but holding promise for unique, large-area lighting applications in the future. The current technological landscape is now led by companies heavily invested in semiconductor technology and LED manufacturing, including established lighting giants like Signify, formerly Philips, Lighting and Osram, alongside major electronics corporations and specialized semiconductor firms. Driven by energy efficiency regulations, many countries have implemented phase-outs of traditional incandescent bulbs, accelerating the transition to LEDs. The scale is vast, with billions of LED products now illuminating the planet. However, this contemporary era of advanced lighting also brings new considerations and challenges. While LED efficiency offers enormous potential for reducing global energy consumption for lighting, the overall use of artificial light continues to increase, the rebound effect, contributing to growing concerns about light pollution. The excessive and misdirected artificial light that disrupts ecosystems, affects wildlife, and obscures our view of the night sky. There's also ongoing research into the potential impacts of artificial light exposure, particularly the blue wavelengths prevalent in many LEDs, on human health, sleep patterns, and circadian rhythms. While LEDs avoid the mercury issue of CFLs, their complex electronic components contribute to the growing problem of e-waste, requiring responsible recycling programs. Finally, the digital nature of LEDs enables smart lighting systems, integrating lighting control with home automation, sensors, and the Internet of Things. This offers new possibilities for convenience, energy management, and personalized environments, but also introduces considerations regarding system complexity, interoperability, data security, and privacy. Therefore, the revolution sparked by the simple incandescent bulb continues to evolve in unexpected ways. The quest for better light, driven now by efficiency, sustainability, and digital integration, has led us from heated filaments to sophisticated semiconductors. Lighting technology remains a dynamic field, constantly adapting and presenting both remarkable opportunities and new challenges for our modern, brightly lit world. Outline 7. We've traced the journey of the incandescent light bulb from the persistent struggles of early inventors through the breakthroughs of Swan and Edison, the fierce war of the currents, and the relentless refinements that created the reliable tungsten lamps which illuminated much of the 20th century. Now, standing in our brightly lit present, let us pause and reflect on the profound and lasting impact of this seemingly simple device. What is the true legacy of the invention that first reliably conquered the night? To fully appreciate its significance, we must recall the world it replaced, a world where human activity largely ceased with the setting sun, where nighttime streets were often dark and dangerous, where homes flickered with the dim, hazardous light of candles, oil lamps, or gas jets. The arrival of practical, affordable electric light represented a fundamental liberation from these constraints. It effectively lengthened the usable day, transforming darkness from an endpoint into simply another part of the 24-hour cycle, fundamentally altering humanity's relationship with time itself. The long-term effects radiated outwards, touching nearly every aspect of civilization. Economically, the impact was revolutionary. Factories freed from dependence on daylight or dangerous gas illumination could operate multiple shifts safely and efficiently, dramatically boosting industrial productivity and becoming cornerstones of 20th century economic expansion. Entirely new industries were born, not just the manufacturing of bulbs, but the vast electrical utility sector responsible for generating and distributing power, creating millions of jobs and immense economic value. Retail and entertainment. Landscapes were transformed, with brightly lit stores extending shopping hours and vibrant theaters, restaurants and amusement parks drawing crowds after dark. Culturally and socially, the changes were equally profound. Safer, better-lit city streets encouraged more evening activity, altering urban social dynamics and nightlife. Inside the home, reliable electric light fostered literacy by making evening reading comfortable, enabled children to study after dark, and changed patterns of family life and socializing. By replacing open flames and gas jets, it vastly improved indoor air quality and dramatically reduced the constant risk of fire, contributing significantly to public health and safety. Architecture adapted, designing spaces with the assumption of reliable artificial light. Perhaps the most crucial, yet often overlooked legacy of the incandescent light bulb lies in its role as the primary catalyst for widespread electrification. While electricity had other potential applications, it was the universal human desire for clean, safe, convenient, and superior light that provided the essential market demand needed to justify the colossal investment required to build centralized power stations and extensive distribution grids. The light bulb was, in effect, the killer app that drove the electrification of the world. Once that vast electrical infrastructure was established, the power plants humming, the wires strung across landscapes and buried beneath streets, it became the foundation upon which countless other transformative technologies of the 20th century were built. Electric motors for industry and appliances, radio, television, refrigeration, air conditioning, and eventually, the computers and digital devices that define our current era. Therefore, the invention and popularization of the practical incandescent light bulb represents far more than just an improvement in illumination technology. It marks a pivotal turning point in human history, comparable perhaps only to the mastery of fire itself in altering our relationship with the natural cycle of day and night. It didn't just light up rooms, it powered industries, reshaped cities, transformed daily life, and crucially, laid the essential groundwork for the entirely electrified, interconnected world we inhabit today. Its enduring legacy glows brightly, often unnoticed, in every illuminated corner of modern civilization. Having traced the incandescent light bulb's journey from a revolutionary spark to a ubiquitous technology and witnessed its recent transformation through CFLs and LEDs, we naturally look ahead. Where does the evolution of lighting technology, this fundamental tool for shaping our environment, lead us next? While today's LEDs offer remarkable efficiency and control, the quest for better, smarter, and more integrated light continues unabated. Current research pushes the boundaries on multiple fronts. Scientists work to further enhance LED efficiency, squeezing more lumens out of every watt, potentially approaching the theoretical physical limits of light generation from semiconductors. Simultaneously, research explores improving light quality, aiming for spectra that more perfectly mimic natural daylight or can be precisely tuned for specific tasks or moods. Beyond refining LEDs, entirely new lighting paradigms are emerging. OLED, organic LED technology, already prevalent in high-end smartphone and television displays, holds promise for creating thin, flexible, even transparent light-emitting surfaces, potentially revolutionizing architectural lighting and design. Micro-LEDs offer another pathway towards ultra-efficient, high-brightness applications. And concepts like Li-Fi, using modulated visible light to transmit data at high speeds, continue to be developed as a potential complement or alternative to radio-based Wi-Fi. Looking at near-term trends, the integration of lighting into our digital ecosystems is set to accelerate. Smart lighting systems, connected via Wi-Fi or other protocols and controllable through apps or voice commands, are becoming increasingly sophisticated. We're moving beyond simple remote control towards human-centric lighting, where artificial light automatically adjusts its intensity and color temperature throughout the day to better support our natural circadian rhythms, potentially improving sleep, mood, and productivity. Expect deeper integration with smart home and smart city platforms, allowing lighting to respond intelligently to occupancy, ambient conditions, security alerts, or energy pricing signals. Sustainability will remain a paramount concern, driving demand for even longer-lasting products, improved recyclability for electronic components in modern bulbs, and minimizing the overall energy consumption associated with global illumination. Peering further into the speculative future, how might our relationship with artificial light evolve? Could we see lighting seamlessly integrated into the very materials of our buildings, allowing walls or ceilings to illuminate dynamically? Might breakthroughs in bioluminescence offer pathways to biologically derived, ultra-efficient light sources? Could highly directional and efficient laser-based lighting find broader applications beyond niche uses? As the core technology matures, perhaps the focus will shift entirely towards the quality and experience of light, creating highly personalized and responsive luminous environments. The future sparked by that first simple bulb continues to unfold, promising light that is not just efficient, but also smarter, healthier, and more deeply integrated into our lives. But this path raises questions as well. What innovations in lighting technology are you most excited to see? How important is human-centric lighting for our well-being? And what responsibilities do we have regarding issues like light pollution and sustainability as we continue to illuminate our world? Share your thoughts and vision for the future of light in the comments below. So, from the earliest flickering experiments in dimly lit labs to the efficient, intelligent lighting systems illuminating our world today, we've traced the remarkable story of how the simple light bulb truly sparked a global revolution. It's a narrative of persistent innovation, fierce competition, and the profound impact of mastering artificial light, fundamentally changing how we live, work, and interact with the world after dark. Thank you sincerely for joining us on this illuminating journey through history. If you found this exploration enlightening, please take a moment to hit the like button and share this video with friends or anyone fascinated by invention and its impact. We'd genuinely love to hear your perspectives. Please share your thoughts and predictions about the future of lighting, especially your answers to the questions we posed in the last section down in the comments below. And finally, to ensure you catch our next deep dive into the stories behind pivotal innovations, please subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell. Thanks again for watching.